And it's time for Lefties Losing It. And how do we get this deep into the week without some input from the ladies of The View? And these miserable maidens are losing their teeny tiny minds again about Joe Biden.
He's 83, so he's a little stumbly, he's a little rumbly. I can't point to anything that he's done as that he did.
No,
as president. But I want somebody to tell me, well, when did you know it was bad? If you knew, why did you wait?
Yeah. So can I answer that,
Can I get in
He
for a
said
second?
that it was after he moderated the debate.
Yes, but that's not, I'm sorry, baby, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're telling me that hundreds of people knew that he was not able to do his job, then where the hell was everybody?
Hundreds of people, Whoopi, hundreds of millions of people around the world who don't get their news from leftist lies like you knew about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They knew it was real and it made him unfit for office. I've been covering it on this station for more than 5 years. Let's just have around 20 seconds of President Applesauce.
Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
I don't know what you were doing there. I don't know how Whoopi missed all that. It was only around a week ago when Joe Biden and Chief Elder Abuser Jill were on The View to try to dispel any notions of his feeble mental state. It did not go well.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world?
But we can hardly expect any level of integrity or consistency from the ladies of The View. And let's stay on Whoopi Goldberg, because remember when she said this before the election, disputing the notion that Donald Trump and the Republicans were pro-family.
The thing that really pisses me off about this is, you know, if y'all really cared about children, where are the tax credits? Where's the paid family leave? Where's the free health care? You know?
Yep, she's demanding tax credits, but now that the Trump administration is coming through with some relief, she ain't happy.
So as birth rates continue to decline in America, the White House is looking into offering $5,000 cash bonuses, expanded access to IVF, along with other incentives for women to have more babies.
Why?
And, okay. I am incredibly insulted by this because clearly they don't know how women's bodies work.
Oh, she's so insufferable, isn't she? And yes, Whoopi, I'm sure it's Republicans who don't know how women's bodies work, not your ilk who claim women can have penises and men can breastfeed. But how interesting that you are insulted, you are enraged by the very tax credits you are demanding. Now she's mocking the $5,000 benefit because that's nothing. What's that going to cover, lunch?
I don't know what $5,000 is supposed to do. And it's not even $5,000 because you have to cut it in half because you got to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So they're offering you $2,500.
They're just the worst, aren't they? Now, talking about miserable maidens, here is Hillary Clinton being Hillary Clinton, i.e. awful.
What advice do you have for the first female president of the United States?
Well, first of all, don't be a handmaiden to the patriarchy, which kind of eliminates every woman on the other side of the aisle.
Handmaidens for the patriarchy, that's how Hillary describes Republican women, except for someone like Liz Cheney, because someone as awful as Hillary. You know, it's a little rich for the woman who allowed herself to be repeatedly humiliated over and over again, would Bill Clinton's wild philandering, affair after affair, Monica, Paula, Jennifer, Kathleen, the list goes on. And I'm not even touching on his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Never forget that this was the painting in prime position in Jeffrey Epstein's house. And through all of that humiliation, Hillary stood by her philandering man. Want to talk about a handmaiden for the patriarchy? Look in the mirror, love. Now let's go to Colorado and check in with how the Democrats are faring. This is Colorado State Senator Chris Kolker, who says he is accountable to God, and that's why he's standing up for equality and trans Jesus. Trans what?
I'm accountable to Almighty God because I'm standing up for equality. Well, on my day of judgment, I might be standing in front of trans Jesus. I don't know. I don't know. It's what I believe. And I believe that Jesus, God, will look at me and say, you stood up for people.
Now to Jake Tapper's new book, Original Sin, on President Biden's decline and its covered up by the likes of Jake Tapper. We haven't forgotten Jake, but he's on the book tour and his fellow lefties are treating these revelations on Biden's decline like it's breaking news. One interesting note, again, something those on the right have pointed out for some time, is the Biden family's dodgy business dealings involving Hunter Biden often, whose influence extended to the Oval Office. Indeed, was America being unwittingly led by this guy?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 crack commandments. Follow these rules, you'll have mad bread to break up. If not, 24 years on the wake up.
Good Lord, let's hear what CNN anchor Jake Tapper has to say.
How big a factor was the Hunter stuff?
I think it was considerable. I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that people, he was almost like a chief of staff of the family.
Does that strike you as pretty bizarre?
It's bizarre because I think he is provably, demonstrably unethical, sleazy, and prone to horrible decisions. I mean,
tell me how you really feel.
Well, I mean, I'm just look at the record. I mean, after his brother died, he cheated on his wife with his brother's widow and then got her addicted to crack.
Just for beginners, joining me now for more on this is filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, what do you make of that? Who was running the country? Was it Jill? Was it Hunter? Or was it the faceless men and women pulling Joe's strings?
Yeah, well, a lot has been written about it, and a lot more will be written about it going forward. But it seems like there was like a Politburo of less than a dozen people, 5 to 8 people, who were in fact running the country. Look, I want to point out that the constitutional powers given to the president are given to only one person, the president. The president himself can't even delegate it to other people if he wanted to. Certainly can't do it if he doesn't have the wherewithal to do it himself, right? No, this is the party of democracy, the party of follow the Constitution. Yet they were undermining democracy, undermine the Constitution by running the country, essentially, well, I'd say behind his back, but it was in front of his face and he couldn't realize what was going on. This is a significant and massive legal problem that needs to be sorted out. And look, first and foremost among the princelings were, of course, Jill Biden and Hunter Biden. And I don't have to go, you did that montage. I don't have to go into who Hunter Biden was. We all know he was doing crack cocaine off of the back of hookers, right? I mean, I don't have to go on and on about what he was doing in his private life. Yet
We've seen the videos.
We did. You just showed it, right? I mean, that was a really great montage of Hunter Biden's life. Look, Hunter Biden was in cabinet, was in Oval Office meetings, very high level over Oval Office meetings. So was Jill Biden. I think the whole country needs to be worried about that, obviously. Who had control of the auto pen is another question, right? Who was the person, in fact, signing these bills, signing these pardons? It seems like it wasn't Joe Biden. The auto pen while yes, one is allowed to use an auto pen, which is essentially, for those who don't know, the president has to sign all these things physically, but there has been a tradition of using this automatic pen that signs his name as long as he is there and watching it happen. Who had control of it, we don't know. And by the way, just so we're totally clear, Biden ran, and this actually answers a very interesting question. Biden ran as a moderate. Biden, his whole career prior to being president, was in fact moderate. Yet the whole country turned hard left. The administration turned hard left while he was being president. We all scratched our heads and said, it doesn't seem like who Joe Biden was. Well, now we know that there was a cabal of people in his administration who were part of the hard left, who were controlling what was going on. I think this is becoming clear. This is an absolute scandal of historic proportions, Rita.
That is well said. A scandal of historic proportions. But back on the book Jake Tapper has put out, he's admitted on Megyn Kelly's program, he was been promoting the book everywhere, and he admitted to her that he has apologised to Lara Trump for dismissing her in a really quite a hostile manner when she raised issues about Joe Biden's cognitive decline back in 2020. Have a look.
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
It's all well and good to apologise and to be making these revelations now, Army, but it's too little too late in my book. And Jake Tapper was still covering up Biden's cognitive decline last year, almost right up until he dropped out of the re-election race. So what credibility does he have? And what damage is this book going to do to Joe Biden's legacy? Because there does seem to be large swathes of the country who watch CNN, MSNBC and other leftist media who are surprised by these revelations, who seem to have completely missed what the rest of us have been reporting for the last 5 years.
I mean, the answer is self-evident. The media has no credibility, right? If one goes in forward history and says, okay, media died in America, and they point to when that happened, it happened during the Biden presidency. It happened when they were covering up for what they knew was his inability to govern. And of course, when they try to cover it up, even after that debate, which is when it actually it all blew open. Look, the question is, where do we go from here, right? How are they going to look at Republican conspiracy theories moving forward, right? Whether or not is Republicans talking about how the media has conspired on Russiagate and Russia, or our crazy idea that COVID came from a lab in Wuhan, right? Or that BLM wasn't really exactly mostly peaceful. These are all crazy conspiracy theories, right? Every single one of them obviously proved true. The question is, how are they going to treat the conspiracy theories of the right going forward? And Rita, I got to admit, I highly doubt that they're going to take them any more seriously than they took them before, even though they were proven to be wrong and the conspiracy theorists were proven to be right time and time and time again. Look, they're still doubling down on this. Nothing has changed. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries just talked about how it's a conspiracy theory that we're saying that they may have known he had debilitating cancer while he was president. Or David Axelrod saying that we need to put criticisms aside right now, right? And asking questions aside right now. No, David, this is exactly when we have to be asking questions. This is when we should be pushing this issue, right? No, they have not given up the ghost.
Absolutely.
They are not contrite. They are pushing forward with this, and all of America and the world should understand what we're dealing with when it comes to the media and how they view this. And by the way, I don't think there's any small, I think there's a connection between the fact that we're seeing this happen, right? These stories are coming out, and Trump's approval rating are actually spiking for the first time. I think people are looking at what the quote unquote president was before and the president now and say, I think we have it pretty good compared to what we had last 4 years. So yeah, I think there's a connection there.
And you make an excellent point on the timing of this cancer diagnosis, because again, this will be called a right-wing conspiracy theory, but I would suggest the majority of Americans at this point don't believe the official narrative, that they only discovered in recent days that this advanced cancer exists. In fact, a number of experts have come out and said that's almost impossible to believe, given he is the president who would be subjected to regular health checkups, fairly thorough checkups. And it's just, to me, Army, mind-blowing that Joe Biden's family, seeing his mental and physical decline, wanted him to run again, wanted him to serve 4 more years, and the Democrat machinery were happy to help him do that until that disastrous debate performance. It's almost cruel. I mean, put aside everything else, the lack of transparency, all the constitutional issues, but just the cruelty to a man who's obviously not fit to lead.
Yeah, and I'll say one of two things happened, Rita, okay? I think this is much is clear. And none of them are good. And one is they knew about the cancer diagnosis and how severe it was and held it back and hid it, which is bad enough, right? And two is they didn't test him because they knew he probably had it, didn't want anyone to know, didn't want him to know, and held back this diagnosis 4 more years, leading to a more severe metastasized form of this cancer. It's one of those two things, and neither one are pretty, Rita.
No, they're both pretty ugly, and just the family members is mind-blowing that they would be party to any of that. Now, this next story should be satire, but sadly it's not. You'll remember Rachel Levine, formerly Richard Levine, the Biden administration's Assistant Secretary for Health. Well, he's been honoured by a women's college. Yes, Smith College presented Levine, a man identifying as a woman, with an honorary degree. And he also spoke to the school's graduating class. Now, to qualify for this honour, Smith College requirements state that the college will consider women who are exemplars of excellence in a wide range of fields, both academic and non-academic. And the criteria also says the college will also consider individuals who have had a special impact on Smith College on the education of men or on women's lives. I don't know. Army, what do you make of this? To me, it's almost satire material, but we continuously see men identifying as women being honoured with awards that are normally reserved for just real women.
Yeah, first of all, Rita, if I can admonish you, it is Admiral Levine, right? And so, yes, I salute Admiral Levine. Look, I got to be honest. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay, Smith College, look, they give honorary degrees to pretty much anybody. It's really not that big a deal. I don't think that part of the story is a big part of the story. Although what I do want to point out, right, is Smith College itself and the absurdity, the lack of morality of that school, that college. There's a couple of stories that you may or not know about, but Smith College, not that long ago, had this story where there was a black woman who went and was sitting eating her food in a cafeteria that was closed. In fact, specifically said no one's allowed to eat in this cafeteria for a number of reasons. And a janitor who was given that instructions walked up to her and said, "Excuse me, but you're actually not allowed to eat here." She then went into full meltdown mode and said, "You are doing this because I am black. I am eating while black." Not kidding. She had a total hissy fit.
Oh, yes, I recall that story.
He called security guard. That's right. Security guard came in and said, "I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be here." What does Smith College do? They fired the janitor, who was a working man from the area, and the security guard, right? After it was very clear that she was the wrong. They were following the diktat of the university themselves, yet they fired a lower class worker because a black woman was eating in a person. This is Smith College. And one last story, if I may.
That's Smith College. That is who they are. Army, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Pleasure.